So Roshelle Baier here with ArtMoose, and we're coming to you from the Licensing Expo. And our next guest, I'm very excited. I've met him before at the Beverly Hills Art Show, and now we get to actually sit down and go a little bit deeper and find out the story behind some of his amazing work. Please welcome Stephen Schubert.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming by and taking time.
It's fantastic to be here. It's great.
Are you enjoying your Licensing Expo so far?
It's amazing because I came with the idea that I was going to have unexpected experiences. It was going to be a big adventure. I wouldn't know where I'd be getting interest with my imagery, and that's exactly what's unfolding. So it's working out really well.
You left the possibilities open, and they surprised you.
I did. I did.
Good.
Actually, I had no control over the possibilities. They were already in place. I merely like walked up to the door and opened it and said, I'm here.
Awesome.
Like
well,
that.
Very cool. Before we take a look at your images, I want to hear a little bit behind the scenes, because you have a very unique story about how you found your way into the art world.
Well, I began as an actor, and when you train seriously as an actor, you go through hundreds and hundreds of hours of acting exercises, and a lot of them are based in therapy. So you do things that you never imagined you'd do, but
I know what you're talking about, yes.
You do. The end result is that you open up passageways and channels that you never thought were there. So when I was 33, after all those years of acting, I discovered that I could paint. And Did you take a class? You just picked up a pen one day, started sketching? No, it happened in another way. There was, I was seeing someone at the time who took me to an artist's studio.
Okay.
And he was famous at the time. And he's not as famous right now, but he had a certain pinnacle at the time. It was really quite fascinating. And I looked at his work, and it inspired me, and I thought, it was very good, but I thought, my God, I could do that. It was some part of me that measured it out and thought, that's something that I could undertake that and execute that well. So I ended up doing a detached variation of that. I didn't want to be accused of plagiarism,
right.
But there was an aspect of feeling like this was a road I could walk down, and I used him as the inspiration. So I created a series of pieces. They all had clocks in them, because that was one of the defining differences between my work and his work, and different shapes. These were foam core elements layered together to make kind of like a giant sandwich of an explosion of color.
Okay.
And so I did that for about 1.5 years, and then something interesting happened. I had a dream, and in the dream I saw an image. When I woke up, I was compelled to create that image.
What you had seen?
Yes, and it was a variation, a deep variation of the 3D elements that I was creating. It utilized elements of lifted pieces, one above the other, of foam core, but it was a realistic scene, and they all had windows in them. This first piece I saw was a window, and it was a room setting. So I went out and I created it out of foam core. Okay. That quickly led to me going to a gallery the gallery director saw potential in that, and that began this path where I ended up in over 45 galleries across the country with this birchwood wall sculpture idea. And that sustained me for over 15 years, just recreating these birchwood wall sculptures. They were great fun. They were basically pieces that recreated the Mediterranean, and they used something called forced perspective, where your eye is guided through a central point in the window through the way the shapes are of all the elements. The chair would be at a certain angle, which would guide your eye toward the window, and I would do things such as rusting out the little screws on the pieces of the shutters to make them look like they've been around for hundreds of years. So that was really cool. But then in 2007, I decided to see if I could really take painting on without the benefit of having lifted elements, the birchwood craftual quality of that, and I started painting canvases.
Okay.
And then I began abstracts. And so what we have today, one of the abstracts we have today, is a piece called Blue Night Tapestry. It's a piece that was created using nothing but a spackle knife. And by the way, when I began...
Really?
Yeah, when I began painting my birchwood pieces, I always worked flat. So I'd work on a flat table, not like on an easel like many artists do. So everything I do today is working flat. And this piece actually is on birch panel, and it's an elevated birch panel, and I work sideways. I work across the piece. So even though this piece looks like lines are coming down in kind of a disbanded ray, radiating down, I created it in a different fashion. I actually dragged a spackle knife across the side of it, making hundreds and hundreds of slash lines to create this effect that there's something coming down like a cool rain.
The movement of it,
Yes, and I've done the variation of this in a much larger size, and it's really compelling to stand in front of because it can remind you of either rain, or it could be someone once said to me it reminded them of being in a moonlit night in the snow at the base of a redwood tree, looking up the expanse of the redwood tree. So.
And what is this next piece here?
This is simple. It's interesting. It's called Pink, and it's an exploration of pink. That's it. I wanted to do something, you know, for so long I worked in earth tones, and this is a really big departure for me from that palette, and I wanted to see if I could have a limited palette, and how much fun could I have exploring pink. And so a lot of this is composed of only a few different tones of pink and variations of that with white, but it's something that is, it's really an exploration of space and balance and form and shape. This is just basically a tribute to the Golden Gate Bridge. I love Northern California, I love San Francisco. I get a very special feeling in the air when I cross over the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's just very special to me.
This captured that feeling.
Yeah.
And this last one.
I love to cook.
So you are a man of many
this piece, thank you.
Talents.
This piece has salt in it.
Oh,
now
actual salt.
Yes,
okay.
It's not uncommon for watercolorists to use salt as a device to make the paint in the water bleed in a certain way, and I did a variation of that. I work in acrylics, and I poured a lot of salt in this piece in certain pigmented areas so that when I spray water on it, it separates and blends out, and you get these really cool, tiny little patterns that emerge, and they're so unique you couldn't really recreate them deliberately. So part of the work that I do involves accidents as well. So again, everything I'm doing is with a spackle knife.
All of
everything.
Wow.
You know, the kind you'll just repair a hole in the wall, and I'm dipping the spackle into numerous colors of paint, and I'm dragging it across the surface, and the amount of pressure I put on that will determine how much paint gets left behind.
This one as well?
Yes. This is 8 feet. This piece was an 8-foot 3 by 8 foot piece.
And you do that all flat then?
Yes, always work flat. And sometimes I have a table that I custom made that I will walk around to get to other parts of it, or flip the artwork around.
You need some space to be working on that then.
Yeah, the studio's pretty big. Miami Skyfall, one of my favorites. It's actually here at the licensing show.
Okay.
And it's 4 by 8 feet, and it's called Miami Skyfall. It's a depiction of my interpretation of Miami at night.
Yeah.
And there's a couple little tricks in there. I've put in some fluorescent paint in all of what would appear to be skyscrapers on the waterline at night. So if you mixed a black light in with this, or flipped the lights off, it would come alive in a new black light way.
Because this was just the tip of the iceberg. But thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
stopping by, taking some time. Enjoy the rest of the expo.
Thank you.
I know we have a little bit of time left, but we want to just thank you for tuning in. And this has been Roshelle Baier with ArtMoose.